There is a truly endless amount of hype in the NFL offseason. Countless fantasy relevant players are getting hyped to the moon. How do we decipher what hype is real and what hype isn't? That's what we're going to do today in a game of buy or sell with Pat Kerrane from Legendary Upside and myself, Erik Beimfohr from Spike Week. On a new episode of Legendary Sickos, we're going to dive into all of the most hyped players and situations in this NFL offseason, training camp, and preseason and decide if we are buying or selling that hype on that individual player. Of course, make sure that if you are subscribed to Legendary Upside, which why wouldn't you be, you can come on over to Spike Week and get yourself 40% off of a Spike Week subscription. Put your Legendary Upside and your Spike Week powers together to draft some incredible best ball teams as we close 2025 best ball season. But let's go ahead and get to the show. All right, Pat, we're in the thick of it. We're in the thick of it now. Preseason week 2 kicks off tonight as of this recording. And training camp is hot and heavy. We got injuries. We got somewhat suspensions and non-suspensions. And Matthew Stafford's back hurts, and then he works out, and then it doesn't go so well. And there's a lot of stuff happening. We say this every year, 100%. Every single time it's probably false, but this feels like an exceptionally crazy offseason with just, suspensions and so many different little unique things. And Matthew Stafford is like propping up an entire franchise on his back. And maybe that's been the problem why his back is currently hurting. There's a lot of stuff all over the place. And what we're going to do today is see the storylines that are coming from the preseason, from training camp that we've been hearing all summer, the drum beats, the whatever an anti-drum beat is, the negative things.
What is an anti-drum beat?
I don't know. I'm not a musician. You're the musician between the two of us, so you should be the one that knows.
I'll come up with it.
Yeah. We need it. We're good at the stupid catchphrases.
The brown
if there's
note?
anything, that cannot be it. We got to choose a different one.
It works.
That people will take and run with that one in very dark ways. No pun intended. But what
I think it's pretty good. It's a long sustained brown. A sustained brown note.
This is disgusting. The drum beat versus the brown notes of the off season. What we're gonna do is play a little game of buy or sell. So Pat and I are going to riff on some of the most notable stuff that's been particularly like players getting hype. You and I have talked. We've done full length episodes about how to handle training camp news. I think it's still relevant. Honestly, we did one last year that you can go back and listen to about how to handle specific, reports in training camp, and don't get, these beat writers are not NFL scouts. They have journalism degrees. Some of them don't have anything to do with football, right? And so their takes on who's performing well can be flawed. However, there are times where there's like a really, really steady drumbeat about certain players crushing it in camp. And sometimes that's very real to listen to, and sometimes it's not.
These beat reporters are also like a little bit like, sometimes they're just like riffing, Like you get on here, like imagine if like you and I were covering a team, but we were kind of like coming on here and just like, I don't know, what do you like? We say some stuff and then we're like, yeah, maybe that was a little too hot. But then it gets clipped and like shared by all of the fantasy football world. Yep. There's some stuff like I think things can be kind of directionally accurate, but not necessarily to be taken like verbatim.
Yeah.
For example, Ben Standig of Last Man Standig's podcast had a note where he said he thought Brian Robinson might not make the roster because Jacorey Croskey-Merritt was going, so nuts in camp. I went back and listened to it, and his co-host is kind of like clearly thinks he's insane, and he's sort of like, I don't know, man. Like I'm just sort of saying stuff, but he's like, look, this guy's going to be our starter, and what's the point of Brian Robinson if he's not going to be, if he's not your best early down running back, what's even the point of him? I think he's gone a little, off the rails there, and Robinson is obviously going to make the team and will probably be the starter for a while, but it's still pretty interesting that that he's willing to throw that out there as a hot take. So there's stuff like that where I think you got to parse it and kind of put it in the context of what the person's doing, what they're trying to accomplish when they say stuff like that.
I think one of our fatal flaws as specifically in like the best ball landscape, because like there is no, like even amongst like the dynasty nerds now, like there is no more like plugged into absolutely every possible thing that's happening than the best ball community.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So because we're like,
are we
like,
outworking the dynasty bros? That's a badge of honor, man.
Maybe not from like the rookie perspective, but from overall grinding. No one is grinding the Campanews and like every beat. You know,
I think you're
like, right. I can almost tell you, I could almost cite Drake London's target share in practice every single day because
42%, brother.
Yeah, I know, dude. It hovers between 35 and 50% a target share every single day. I talked about that. Drake London might come up today as well on this show, but it's so funny. That bit it's gold. That Falcons guy, like, he's ready to put Drake London in the Hall of Fame, but he charts every single target from Michael Penix, and a lot of them go to Drake London. Spoiler alert in practice, but he always makes sure to put the percentage target share that Drake London had in practice that day, and it just cracks me up that that's where we are now. Like 2 years ago, that would have been unheard of.
I know.
And now it's just like every practice, I know how many targets every single player is getting. I want to start actually like just piggybacking on what you said. This isn't necessarily a buy or sell, but one that jumped out to me from was this just right? Like, we don't always use the exact words on the spot, right? Like if someone took me verbatim, everything I've said all summer on a live stream, like the exact words I've chosen are not going to be perfect all the time. Quite frankly, they're not going to be perfect most of the time because you're just, like you said, riffing off the top of your head. You're answering comments or thinking about what's happening in a draft, and you're kind of your brain's
your thoughts change over time. Yeah,
exactly. What I thought in May is very different from what I think today. Darnell Mooney is injured. Speaking of the Atlanta Falcons, and I thought this was a good example of it could be really easy to read too much into this because of the specific words that Raheem Morris, I believe it was Raheem Morris, that who's Zach Robinson? I can't remember I can't remember who said it. If it was Robinson said it. But anyway, just recently, yesterday or 2 days ago, about Darnell Mooney said, I feel good about him coming back. But when, I'm not exactly sure, he said, but I feel good that he'll be ready to go this year, was the way he closed the quote. And it was like, okay, that's scary, right? This year, because like Brandon Ayuk's going to be back this year. Like Christian Watson might be back this year. But like, what does that mean? We're panicking about, say, a Chris Godwin, and I think it's understandable because he might miss the first month of the season. But when we get certain quotes like that, it's really easy to be like, right, because that's what we're doing. We're reading that after the fact. We're diagnosing every single specific word that they use. But he's just there's a tape recorder in his face, and they ask him a question, and off the cuff he has to answer it. Does he just mean like, this season, like this year, like to start the year, or like, he'll be back soon, like, or did he mean like, he's going to come back, but it could be a while. We just don't know. And so I think it can be dangerous to like really like, it can be dangerous to put your head in the sand, but it can also be equally dangerous to be like, oh shit, like look at what he said and like really overanalyze it.
100%. I think throwing out some of this stuff is good. Like Shanahan has had a couple quotes that I think people have misread this year. One would be, the one that I'm more confident people misread is the Ayuk one, where he was like,
the recent one about return date,
week 6. He said, week 6. And but they asked him about a bunch of guys, and he's like, yeah, those dudes are week 6 to me. And he literally says like, yeah, they're like week 6, but that just means like, I'm not thinking about them until week 6. Like he basically like put them on like the back burner of his, like he just taking them out of his like mental, he's not worrying about them. He's compartmentalizing, right? He's like, I'll worry about that later, and I'll start worrying about that around week 6. But that does not mean that there's anything magical about week 6 for IU. Like IU could be out like till like week 9. You know, it's all, he just doesn't know. He's like, dude, it's not week 1, it's not week 2. Like, I'm thinking about these dudes later. It could also be that he beats expectations and comes back week 5, but he's definitely going to go on PUP to start the year. So to me, that was just a quote of like, yeah, he doesn't know. He's like 100% to go on PUP basically, but he doesn't know when he's coming back. And then I also thought the Jennings one where he said, oh, those calves are tricky. People got like all like worked up that like he's saying like, wink, wink, it's actually a contract. It's not the calf. There's a lot of evidence that it is the calf, like, especially since, I mean, this is somewhat, you know, stuff that's come out after where he's like, you know, just starting to run on the sidelines again. And like, he clearly has a calf injury and it doesn't look that serious. And he probably would be out there. I'm guessing if there wasn't the contract situation, but who actually knows? To me, that's always been Shanahan just being like, I don't know, man, like quit asking me about this. Like,
Right.
I'm just the cat. It's a tricky thing. Like, you know, you guys know there's a contract thing, and I can't 100% tell you if he's faking it, but I don't really think he is. But like,
and he can't comment on that. What
he
is
can't comment on that.
Say? Yeah,
it's a tricky situation. Is basically what he's saying. But like, yeah. So I don't know. I mean, and the funny thing is, like, I'm drafting a lot of Jennings still. I basically think the calf is probably not as serious as, you know, it might otherwise be if there wasn't a contract situation. That he's basically like, yeah, I'm not gonna like risk aggravating a calf while you guys don't pay me. But I could also be totally wrong about that. I haven't taken that Shanahan quote to really mean anything. As far as like, oh, it's definitely just the contract situation. So those ones, I don't know. I think it's probably better in some cases to just be like, yeah, the coach doesn't really know. Like, he doesn't know when, and I would say that's the true of the Stafford stuff as well. I don't think McVay really knows what the deal is with his back. I don't think Stafford really knows. Like Schrager had a quote today, I think, where he was saying they're being ultra conservative with him, and that Stafford would probably want to be out there, but they don't want to risk him re-aggravating stuff. And so that was encouraging to hear, but like, no one there. It's his back. Like, he's dealing with like back pain. Who knows when that's going to go away? Like, no one knows when that's going to go away. So, and a lot of these cases, we like are very tempted to take something concrete away, but I think sometimes the right move is to be like, I learned nothing.
You learned that there's something going on here, but what comes of it?
Yeah, we don't know.
I think that's honestly just like a lesson in best ball all around. I think the best way, and you guys would know this, you guys are much deeper into like the redraft streets and stuff than I am. I actually think like playing redraft, like I know better is honestly like, I don't mean I know better about like Matthew Stafford's back, but I mean just like playing the game as like you have the answers of like who to pick is kind of the better way to play it, because it is like archetypes and all that kind of, like there are just certain players that just remove from your boards and stuff in redraft, and then there's certain structural ways to attack things and whatever. Not going to get all the players right, and there's still so much chaos in a season, but just like attacking kind of the tried and true types of players and structures that you know work and win, and frankly that not enough people use. It's just like there is a template sort of to just like, I know better about how to attack these games in best ball. Like I honestly think like being humble about like taking player stances and stuff, I think is still good. Like to try to exploit a mispriced player or stack or structure or whatever is still good. But like year to it, like there isn't like a, like, oh, like I'm just never going to draft whatever Adam Thielen in redraft, right? Like it's just not going to happen. But like, I was like, but in best ball, it's like, I don't know, like almost everyone has some form of, you could talk me into it. And that's the same thing with like this news stuff, like pretending that we know, I think is a fool's errand. And like, really, we often have too much confidence in our ability to diagnose any of these things. And I don't mean diagnose just from a mental perspective. I mean from a health perspective, from just like a, right, even just like pecking order, who's performing well at camp. Like we're not there, and we're just reading what everybody else is reading. Like, you know, we don't necessarily know any better. But I think with the Rams, the good, like what you said is spot on. I think McVay's been exceptionally honest.
Me too.
And he is generally overall, but I think he's been exceptionally honest about like, he's definitely been coached up. I will say he reuses a lot of the same words that the head of PR is probably telling him to use. But day to day, week to week, right? We're taking this day by day. We're, like you said, we're playing it safe. We're being cautious. We're going to do right by Matt. We're going to, he's using all of those types of things. And I think if you read between the lines a little bit, I think if it were up to Stafford, knowing his history of playing through injuries, if this were the regular season, he would play. I think that they're like, well, there is no sense, especially at this stage in his career, in risking this at all. Like, this may be the last rodeo for all parties here.
Totally.
So there's no sense in August to risk this thing. So they're being, and I think that's what they're telling us, right? And I think we're panicking, somewhat rightfully so, but I think that they're telling us that we just got to handle this thing with kid gloves, because why the hell risk it on August 15th with this dude? We need him for
dude
December.
Who completely knows the offense. Like, there's no
him and McVay have a fucking mind meld. Like, he knows how to play with
him.
Puka.
And Puka have a mind meld. Yeah.
So like, him and Devontae got to get on the same page, but I think Devontae Adams is quite accomplished at getting on the same page with absolutely anyone.
Everyone but Jimmy G.
Yeah. Except, did you see that? I wonder if Devontae was so ready to be gone again when, he's supposedly, like, they, him and Jimmy G dapped up and they were supposedly good. I don't believe that for a second.
Solved everything.
Yeah, I don't believe that for a second. But I mean, I believe they did that, but I don't believe Devontae feels that way. And then in practice yesterday, he threw him the most hospital ball
I saw it. He was just like, you.
Even the Rams beats were like, hold on, Jimmy G just threw a hospital ball to Devontae between three guys, and Devontae would have died in a game. And somebody went like, hold on, I'll go get the video for you. And it's worse than you think. He could have thrown it harder underhand. And like, you could see Devontae after he caught it and the defenders go flying by. Obviously, they didn't hit him because it's practice. But he's just like, come on, man. So it is concerning if it's Jimmy G. But in terms of the Ram stuff, I think that they're being as honest as they possibly can.
I do too. Yeah. But they don't know, which is the point. And yeah, so I don't know. You want to get into it? Talk through some.
Let's do it. I got one. Buy or sell. You'll like this one. I know I can get back up. Well, frankly, me too. Because this is one of my favorite prospects. It is a rookie. And he is, of course, on the New England Patriots. But every day there is a new TreVeyon Henderson is the greatest player in the history of the New England Patriots, not named Tom Brady, highlight clip that comes up. He, of course, returned his first NFL touch, 100 yards to the house on a kick return. Ramondre has been banged up a little bit in practice. He's fine, but he missed a little bit of practice. And then in those practices, TreVeyon is just like, oh, there's a 60-yard touchdown. Oh, there's a 70-yard touchdown. Oh, there's him rocking somebody in pass protection again. Oh, there's like every day they are foaming at the mouth over TreVeyon Henderson in New England. Is the hype real? Is he as good as it appears? Or do we need to temper our expectations? Are you buying or selling the TreVeyon stuff?
For the purposes of best ball,
yeah.
And from the perspective of someone who had, I believe, 25% TreVeyon Henderson before that preseason game, I'm selling.
Oh, no.
I think the move was, if you're going to make talent-based bets, don't wait until preseason hype, because you're always going to pay for that. The hype around a guy, and there's another one I'll buy later that's talent hype, but this is a high pedigree player that which should have been on all of our radars. Is a very talented guy, and in an awesome situation for that talent to shine through very quickly. And so, yeah, I think I'm still drafting him a little bit. Like I got him in like the middle of the 5th round the other day in a slow draft. I was like, whoa, this is supposed to be over. And I will take him, in the early 5th a little bit, but I've cooled off a lot. And honestly, I'm taking more Ramondre, because Ramondre got all the early down work in the preseason game, and Henderson looks to be in a receiving role, which I think it's funny, because when he was going at the 5-6 turn, I was making the argument that him being in a receiving role is bullish, because that's really hard for a rookie to get out of the gate, and to be like a trusted pass blocker immediately is awesome. And eventually he's taken that job. He's taking the Ramondre role. by the end of the season, I think. But you listen to like Josh McDaniels, and he's saying like he's like, man, he's fast. He's actually a lot faster than James White and Danny Woodhead. Like, yeah, he's a lot. Maybe you shouldn't even be comparing him to those guys. You ever think of that?
Don't say Shane Vereen in the same fucking sentence, please.
Yeah, Shane Vereen, he's a lot faster than Shane. Like, yeah, he is. Maybe hand him the ball too. So I think we're in for a super, super frustrating start to the season. I think he's going to be in the third down role. I think he's going to be the pass catcher role. I think they're going to have him pigeonholed into that, and we're going to be pulling our hair out because we've now kind of convinced ourselves that he's going to be an immediate superstar. When he was going at the 5-6 turn, it was much more of like, yeah, this guy's more of the dude who comes on down the stretch and is a league winner for me there, and is going to be producing, throughout the season, but he's not going to be a consistent starter for me. I think now he's being priced much more like a consistent starter. And I just think that the early part of the season is going to be a little frustrating for people who got in at these prices. I don't think it's bad. He probably should have been going here all along, because I think that's the type of profile that's probably where this should be priced, because he's got that much upside at the end of the year. But I don't know. His rise is being driven by, oh my God, this guy's so good. But there was all that we had everything we needed to know that.
Meaning like our little circle of the fantasy football prospect bro, whatever you want to call it. We have had all that information leading up until now. That was our going in assumption, was that this guy rocked. This is confirmation bias, and it's fun. It's enjoyable. It's a lot of fun. It's very fun to be in on the guy who just keeps scoring 70-yard touchdowns. Like, trust me, it's a lot more fun to be in on that guy than to be in on the guy who's, his teammate, for example, Quinshon Judkins, who still, maybe brighter days are ahead, but it has not been so fun if you were a Judkins over Henderson. And Judkins may end up being better, right? But I'm just saying that from the enjoyability, a life
and in like the main event and stuff, I'm down. Like, most of the main events haven't been drafted yet. He's going to be.
Where does he go?
And we took him at the end of the 4th in a main event. Okay. Yeah. So, FFPC is a much more kind of running back heavy type of format. And so, getting him there, which is pretty much equivalent to his underdog ADP now, I'm in. I think it's more about, to me, I'm selling because I think maybe people have like a different idea of how the season's going to go than I think what will actually happen. Like, just be, if you're along for the ride of like, I'm going to be pissed in week 3, then cool. Like, just, it could be really, really, really fun down the stretch. But I want to be building with the idea that like that RJ Harvey is going to have more of a role than TreVeyon Henderson out of the gate. I think that seems very clear. And I don't know that maybe that's perception anymore.
So interestingly, I'm taking the opposite side of this TreVeyon thing, but it's actually specifically because of everything that you just said. I think I could just like rewind the tape and be like, Pat actually also kind of made the buying case. Your selling case is also very valid and true. And if someone is coming in and saying, oh yeah, I'm getting the new Christian McCaffrey or whatever, in the 4th round, I do think you're going to be sadly mistaken. You're going to be very disappointed to start the season. However, what I feel even strong, nothing has really changed, because you and I have talked about this already. Like, we talked about TreVeyon as the like just such an outstanding bet to make in fantasy, because he's going to have this, right? Like you said, this role. What's so difficult for a rookie, ask Caleb Johnson and Caleb Johnson owners right now, is to step in as a rookie and master the nuances of like the passing game stuff. It's like, that's the hardest thing. Dude, veterans can't do it. Joe Mixon has never done it, right? I know he's just top of mind because, is he going to play football this year? Who knows? But like Joe Mixon, right? Every stop of his career, it's like, well, there's a P Ryan because that guy comes in and does the passing game stuff. Dario Gumbawale, right? Coming in, Joe Mixon, you see him running. It's 3rd and 8. Joe, come hit the sideline, right? So when the 21-year-old rookie or whatever he is, 22-year-old rookie comes in and is already a fucking Stonewall pass blocker, is like getting all
So
the coaches
bullish.
on board with him. And then, you know, is obviously clearly dynamic out of the backfield as a receiver, is like, okay, we checked the hardest box that is right. He took running NFL running back 301 first, and now he's gonna go double back for 101, right? 101 is gonna feel really easy after you take the 301 class and you get a fucking A in it. So he's got that A. He's gonna go back, and I think, you know, so we have to wait for him to go back to class, right? And finish up that other class, which is dusting off the course of Ramondre Stevenson over the course of the year. But that's just like nothing but bullish to me. And I can build a room, like, you know, we're not talking about Eliminator and all that kind of stuff. We're talking about like Best Ball Mania. I can build a room that I can survive, dude. At this new price, that's fine. I can survive, because the most difficult thing to have is a clear path to that insane league winner as a rookie without an injury in a backfield where people are projecting someone else to play. And like Bucky, right? Bucky had it because like Ramondre is very Rashad Whitey to me. And frankly, TreVeyon is better. Well, I mean, I'm not saying he's going to be better in the NFL, because Bucky's really awesome in the NFL. But in terms of coming into the NFL, my perception of TreVeyon Henderson was much higher than Bucky. And definitely. I think everybody should be. But like, so you're just like, there's nothing in the way other than like he needs to get reps, right? Like he needs to go to class and do his assignments. And like eventually it's just like the semester ends and he gets the grade, and like just sign me up for that. And so like I feel more confident about all of that now. I loved him all along. I loved, like you said, the profile, the receiving, all this different stuff, but just this, like the gates being open now and him just having to walk through them feels more clear to me now. And I'm willing to pay more of a tax on that. And just cycle through some different, right? So instead of what we were taking, like you said, we were taking him at the 5-6 turn. So instead of Mike Evans or T-Mac or Worthy or whoever on that team now, I'm frankly, Zay Flowers falls there now. Like I can like swap, right? I'm just like taking Zay Flowers with TreVeyon instead of, like, that's like a gold mine to me. Like I'll take Zay Flowers. I might like Zay Flowers better than the guys, you know, right? So like obviously I'm just cherry picking that one guy, but it could be Travis Hunter. It could be
love the
whoever.
5th round receivers now. They're very nice.
Devontae is in there. You know, there's a lot of
I just published an article on Devontae where I was like, the only way this dude can like really improve significantly is if like the Eagles pass more. But like, oh, it's actually really hard to not pass as much as they did last year, and they probably pass more. Like, or at least there's a good chance they pass more. And like, also he's really good, has good quarterback play. So it was like, yeah. Smith, I was like, I'm at 8% Smith, but in the article, I was like, I'd like to kind of get up to like 12. Like he's not gonna be like someone I hammer, but there's a lot of guys, Hunter, Flowers. I'm taking some Jameson now. I'm gonna be underweight, but not like aggressively underweight. Sutton's probably the guy I'm gonna fade the hardest in that range, I think.
Me too.
Yeah, there's a ton of really fun guys there. So yeah, if you take Henderson in the 4th and then grab one of those guys in the 5th, like what's really the difference? And I was always not always. What I'm selling is the preseason and Twitter video hype. That's what I'm selling, because I think that's changing the perception and like the expectations and the timeline for people. I was always buying the pass protection and like 3rd down roll stuff is bullish, and that's what got me actually to break ties to Henderson over Harvey.
Right.
Because I'm like, man, he's the better player. He's the better prospect. I don't know for sure he's a better player, but he's a better prospect than Harvey. Mm-hmm. Like he just is, you know? And he was a guy that like, if he had gone 1st round, it would not have been surprising at all.
I thought
Harvey to go. I did too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Harvey to go at the end of the 2nd round was like, whoa. Yeah. So, right. I mean, that tells you a lot right there.
If Henderson went where Hampton went, like Hampton went a couple picks before, and then the Chargers ended up taking TreVeyon instead, I would not have been shocked. I was more shocked that Harvey went in the 2nd round than I would have been if Henderson like went to the Chargers or something.
For sure. Yeah. So I was breaking ties to him on that hype. So I was buying that, but then it's like now with this extra layer of like, this dude is the truth from some preseason runs and returns and stuff in training camp, that's where I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I think that's probably something that shouldn't really be changing the price of the bet and is. But you're right. I mean, he's still like, if you need Henderson, it's not that I'm saying don't draft him now, but I guess like make sure you're not. The bet hasn't changed. The bet's still like the same. Like he's going to be a passing down back for this team to begin the season. Ramondre is going to get the rushing work and probably the goal line work to start out. Their offensive line sucks, so that role's not as good as it maybe could be. But the line seems to be better, as they seem to have made more strides in run blocking than in pass blocking. So I do expect them to try to run the ball a bit, and it'll be more with Ramondre than Henderson to start the year. So just keep the expectations in check for the beginning of the year is really my point.
And then I think the buy case is that happens, and then you get the Rachaad White Bucky outcome where they're like, okay, enough, right? Enough of this Ramondre stuff. Let's start moving more of this to this. Because when
which I think happens.
TreVeyon gets 8 carries for 70 yards and Ramondre has 15 carries for 43 yards or whatever, like for 3 weeks, they're like, okay, like we can't keep doing this.
Also, Ramondre has a major fumbling issue.
Yeah.
And these guys don't mess around with that. So I think
TreVeyon notably never fumbles. He never fumbled in college. He does not fumble.
Yeah. So this is going to happen. Henderson is going to be, if you don't have Henderson, you should get some Henderson. So from that perspective, I do buy the rise. But like, I'm not like, oh man, oh God, like I was taking a ton before and now I got to really hammer him. I'm more like, well, it's a shame I didn't even draft more before, but I probably
it feels a little like the the running back version of like George Pickens to me. Like on some sites, he really rose up too, where we were like, oh my God, this guy's the league winner of all league winners. And now he rose up, and I still like him.
I still like him. I take him some.
It's like when I get to that spot, it's not like Pickens anymore.
Exactly.
And it was before.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly.
All right, I got another guy that's very similar to like very, very similar to this. Though it's possible some of the bet has changed, but it is a first-round pick rookie who is getting like, you want to talk about hype. The way that anyone remotely related to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers organization talks about Emeka Egbuka. I'm not sure. He might be like baptizing their children. He must clean the offices before everybody comes in for work or something. Like they would let him date their daughters. They would do anything for this dude. Well, when Baker talks about him, like he just starts smiling. Like, and Baker's like a hard ass, right? And he like starts talking.
I don't know if he's a hard ass. He's like
he's like a dry sense of humor, sarcastic.
He's a dry sense of humor guy. Yeah, he likes to kind of mess around.
He's kind of like all of us, right? A little,
right.
He likes to mess around. But when he talks about Emeka Egbuka, it's like, you talk about a new puppy that you got, right? You're just so excited about this new pup. And supposedly, right, based on this is warranted if you listen to the beat writers as well, in terms of he's dominating practice every single day. There was somebody posted a funny clip of they were obviously trolling on Twitter, but it was like Chris Godwin's like back to normal or whatever, and it was like Egbuka just absolutely roasting somebody, and people were like, "Wait, that's not Godwin." They were like, "Yeah, you see how good this dude is? You thought that was peak Chris Godwin because he's just cooking everybody."
Wow.
Are you buying or selling the Emeka Egbuka hype, because he has also risen quite significantly in drafts?
Well, this is another one where I was buying, and now he's like, I believe, in the 3-4 turn last time I checked. Is that right?
Soon to be the 1-2 turn, I think.
I think he's flipped Evans. So I think at this point I'm out. No, I mean, I don't know. I'm not really drafting Egbuka right now because he's so expensive compared to where he used to go. And I was happy to take him in the 7th round, at a decent clip. I don't know. I probably don't have quite enough. Let me see exactly where I'm at. But yeah, I think his rise is like a little bit. I'm at 15%. So, wish I'd gotten that to 20, and it's falling because I don't have, as much Egbuka in these more recent drafts. But yeah, he was someone where it was like clear that this dude is going to make an immediate impact. The other thing with Egbuka, this has been something I've kind of probably just something I've improved on in Dynasty and Best Ball, but I think it has more of an effect in Best Ball, probably, where like there's these guys that come in and you're like, well, the ceiling isn't that high, but they'll probably be, pretty good pros. Those are, first of all, just better Dynasty picks than I thought they were, because Dynasty is a trade game. It's all about the trade value. And if a guy has a good rookie season, the trade value goes way up. So take guys you think will have good rookie seasons. Like, it's not really that hard. But the other thing is that we're wrong about ceilings, like, constantly. And being good at football as a first round pick, you have a ceiling. And so I think with Egbuka, he kind of came in as, he's kind of just a slot guy. And he, all he does is really earn intermediate targets. Not that impressive. It's like, hang on. These are at least half PPR leagues that we play in, sometimes full. That's pretty cool if you just can earn targets very consistently. And the Egbuka hype has been extremely steady. So
relentless.
I am
one might call it relentless.
Yeah. I am buying that this dude's going to have an immediate impact. I don't think his current price is great, but I don't think it's insane either. And look, I mean, it's kind of the back-weighted production profile that you get with the rookie. The part that I would sell on Egbuka is that I think some of the current hype is actually because of the early part of the season where Chris Godwin's going to miss time and he's going to go on PUP. And so it's like, I get Egbuka out of the gate, and then I'm going to get, him also breaking out down the stretch, which is totally possible. But that early part profile, I don't want to have to pay, the 60th pick
it's
in the draft.
Actually, I wish Godwin were like I think we would have got a better price, but the bet would be the same if Godwin were just like at least like half-ass practicing.
Totally, yeah. So it's like I'm paying 20 picks more now because of week 2,
right?
Like, that's actually not so great. So, yeah, when I was drafting him a bunch at the 6-7 turn.
In the 80s or whatever.
Definitely then. But I chased him up to the 6-7, and I kind of waved goodbye a little bit now that he's moving up to the early 6th.
Yep, early 6th. I'm definitely like buying. It's a very similar thing to TreVeyon to me. I think what makes it easier to buy is that maybe easier is not the right word, but that whole range of wide receiver is like, you would think they all played for the 49ers or something. They're just all are fucking cursed. It's like if you were going in, like if you have a somewhere ADP around 75 on Underdog, like pick 75 of wide receiver, you have gotten hurt or suspended or
it's true. Downs just pulled his hammy.
Literally yesterday, Josh Downs was like the last man fucking standing, and he pulled his hammy.
It's crazy,
and that it's absolutely nuts. And so it's like, what do we expect? Of course these guys rise from the hype, but it's also like, what else are you going to do? Like, take Chris Olave on every team? Like, Jacoby Myers? Yeah, I know.
Olave, Jennings, Diggs. I take a lot of those guys now.
Matthew Golden is kind of hanging out, there, but the Jaden Reed stuff has moved up Matthew Golden's price. It's that sort of tier. I thought that was, and it was last year as well. If you recall, that was Ladd, JSN, J-Mo, etc. in that pocket of the draft. And they
never got this expensive though.
No, they never rose. So that was like the league winning pocket. Why it was really hard for me to take I don't necessarily think the Isaiah Pacheco's and the Tony Pollards and the Aaron Joneses and whoever are like bad picks in that range, but it was like impossible for me to take those guys in that window when we had Egbuka.
Right.
And both, and a healthy Jaden Reed and Matthew Golden and Josh Downs and et cetera, et cetera. Ricky Pearsall went there and Juwan Jennings went there and stuff. And it's like, there's remnants of that tier now, but the majority of them have risen up, and the ones who haven't risen up are injured. So it's like, it's a little weird type situation going on there. It is helping me get more of like the Chris Olaves and stuff, which is kind of nice, but I'm very in on Egbuka. Really stupid, very stupid, but we all have little things. Was it last week we talked about things that like end up like really silly things that own real estate in your brain. One that they talk about with Egbuka very frequently is if you watch a lot of receivers they'll jump to catch the ball. It's like a human instinct to like jump and catch it. Like even on like comeback routes, like of course if you're like running down the sideline and like jumping in a contested catch for sure, but like you don't, it slows you down, and of course like you can get destroyed, right? If you're like going over the middle and you leave, even if it's just like a little skip or something, people will like kind of skip to get up in the air and catch it, and it's really hard to train yourself to do it, but it's also like a really powerful skill to just keep running. Don't leave your feet, right? Catch the ball. And they talk about Egbuka's like the master. Like he's better than Mike Evans at this. Like, and Mike Evans is like a Hall of Fame wide receiver who's, in his 30s. He's on his swan song. And they're like, this dude, like, he's like all the little technical details. He's so good at. And there's just so many parallels to the exact asset that you talked about, where they come in and you're like, this guy's boring. Like, I literally said this about Chris Olave. Like, speaking of Chris Olave,
Zay Flowers.
Obviously Justin Jefferson is like the shining example people love to use. But even if we ignore that, there's a lot of really, we don't have to go. Yeah. We don't have to dig that deep and go that crazy. There's just a lot of like kind of similar comps, and I think he's in that bucket. And so I'm pretty excited for him. I'm hoping they shut the fuck up at some point so we can.
I know, man.
So he's not going in like the 40s.
I hope Godwin is, because I actually am taking some Godwin. I've been taking some Godwin, to be honest, but
I like to take Egbuka with Godwin.
Yeah, I've done that.
Kind of fun.
Yeah, but if Godwin's, because a beat writer recently was like, "Oh yeah, he's definitely going on pup," but that stuff, I'm like, you don't know, So
he would be shocked or whatever.
Well, that guy might get shocked. Like that was one of those things, right? Yeah. I don't. Not to say that like I would bet that Godwin goes on pup too, but I just think that may have been overstated. And if stuff kind of circles back, like, oh no, he's still live to miss a game, then maybe I don't know, it feels like kind of a cat's out of the bag a little bit on Egbuka so though. He's not going to drop.
You can't put that guy back in that bag. It's over.
No, it's over.
Same thing. TreVeyon, like,
it's not that. But yeah. Well, at least I have a decent amount.
Yeah, I feel good. I feel this is, we've joked.
CLV is it can be a bummer, right? You're like, I got good CLV, but now I don't.
Take you get mad because the guy that you drafted 25% of rises 2 rounds. It's like, oh, fucking what a terrible problem to have. You have all these awesome teams, you idiot. But it's also like you pay the tax sometimes. Like we've talked about that. Right. Yeah. Like, look, it doesn't always go perfect, but when you invent like that wide receiver range, I was like, I'm just going to hammer that wide receiver range. And it's like, sometimes you get Egbuka and Pearsall, and sometimes you get Jaden Reed and, whatever. And it's like that you play for that. Like sometimes you have to sacrifice teams to get these awesome teams. And these kind of guys are the perfect examples of why. You look back and you're like, wait, pick 65 TreVeyon Henderson. That feels good now.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
You got any off the top
let's
of your
do
head?
Let's do a Jacorey Croskey-Merritt, because that's probably one of the biggest hype trains of summer. Buying or selling Jacorey Croskey-Merritt. And let me just I did the Ben Stanig thing where he said that he would be making the roster instead of Brian Robinson. But there's been a bunch of stuff out of camp where people are saying this dude, and like a variety of beats are saying this, he's going to be the starter by the end of the season. So big time kind of talent based hype train, which, as I've talked about before, I can be skeptical of.
This is the one. I've bought the first 2, but those were far easier. A first round pick and a quasi first round pick, both prospects that we loved. This is the one that I have to sell. It's not that I don't like. How do I caveat this? And this will be the case for most of this. It's not that I don't believe he's having a good camp. It's not that I don't believe he's going to make the team. It's not that I don't believe that they don't like him. This is a 7th round pick who did not play football last year. Caught 7 passes the last time we saw him play in college football at New Mexico. And he was great as a rusher. But again, this was New Mexico. And the anti-Ashton Genty crowd will hold that against Ashton Genty from playing in the Mountain West and having the greatest rushing season like ever. This guy did it at New Mexico in the Mountain West.
I don't think the anti-Ashton Genty crowd is going to have a fun season.
I don't think so either. I just can't fathom being anti-Ashton. Like what do you think goes? We were joking about like people who do like negative YouTube comments and stuff like that. Like they just can't help but like get it out there that they think you're stupid. Is like what's the opposite of that? I guess is the like every player who's like an awesome prospect, I'm gonna take the opposite side of it. Like that's the Ashton. Like why? Like what are you gain? It's like being anti Malik Neighbors. Are you like you go to the parties and you like fucking piss in the punch bowl or something? Like what is the point of being anti Ashton Genty exactly?
It's not going to go well. This dude's a star.
3 carries for -1 yards though, Pat, in the preseason.
Oh,
so
no.
It's over.
And that's how we use preseason, right? To get a sense of who's good. And
exactly.
use efficiency stats from a 3 carry sample. Is that best practice? Just checking.
That is buy or sell. Ashton Genty it's over. It's over for Ashton Genty.
It's never been more over
from the preseason. He is falling, by the way, which is kind of hilarious.
He is
in drafts.
He is.
It's a
amazing.
It's a godsend because I wasn't really getting that much of him.
This is the Jamar Chase drops. This is so dumb.
It's so stupid. Speaking, we don't got to do the Ashton Genty thing. Sorry, Jacorey Croskey-Merritt. But Ashton Genty came up in the conversation. He's a little more important than you are. Like everything that's happened over the summer has been extremely bullish for Ashton Genty. They talked about using him in the pass game, which of course Boise didn't really do last year. 2 years ago, Boise
last year, but they did before.
He's really good in the passing game.
Genty has this cool profile where like in 2023, he was like this one style of back where he's like getting all the pass game work and he was like insane. And then last year,
he was like TreVeyon. 2023 was like more like TreVeyon.
And then they were like, now do Saquon. And he like smashed his Saquon. Right. The Eagles Saquon. He basically was like, they were like, do Giants Saquon, from his rookie season. And he just cooked. And they're like, now do Eagles Saquon. And then he also was like the best back in the nation. So I'm like, anyone kind of pointing to last year as like a red flag for his receiving, like just go back a year because he did it. He's good. He's a really good receiver.
He's awesome. My other I apologize, and then we'll get over it. But my favorite thing to like, oh well, did you see who he played? Right, like look at the competition. Like sure, he went to a smaller school. So I know the efficiency was terrible against Penn State, but I don't know if anybody watched that game. He's just getting destroyed like in the backfield on every play and just like shrugging dudes off constantly to get to 100 yards. And they were like competitive for chunks of that game, like all on his shoulders. They were so outmanned. It was absolutely insane how outmanned they were. And I was honestly impressed at 3.5 yards per carry from him in that game. And then scroll back to, I don't know if anybody remember, they had Oregon, who was #1 in the country for the overwhelming majority of the season, of course, lost to Ohio State in the college football playoff. Oregon is a Big Ten school now. This is Dylan Gabriel and Jordan James and co at Tez Johnson, Terrence Ferguson. That's all their NFL players, just from the skill groups. That's not the rest of the team.
Yeah.
They went to Oregon, lost 37-34. Here's Ashton Genty's stat line: 25 carries for 192 yards and 3 touchdowns against the #1 team in the country from the Big Ten. So you can miss me with he only did it because he was in the Mountain West. He went to the Big Ten, brother, and did it like with a bunch of fucking losers that are going to sell insurance after they're done playing football against a bunch of NFL players. So yeah, I think Ashton Genty is going to be just fine. However, Jacorey Croskey-Merritt, the point. I think we're all buying Genty. I just have a really hard time with this because you want to talk about like we don't know. There's a gap year in this guy's profile, and right. It's so hard for me to say without evidence from Arizona last year. Like I see the New Mexico year was solid on the ground, just like everybody else does, but the opposite of like what we talked about with TreVeyon is that he's an early down runner. I feel very confident that that's what it is.
That's right,
and that's the problem that I have is if you like, and they've sort of made that known as well. Obviously, Austin Eckler is the passing down back. Brian Robinson, up until this point, has kind of been the early down hammer. And oh my God, what's the backup? Like sort of Eckler's backup,
Chris Rodriguez and
McNichols. McNichols
yeah.
is sort of like Eckler's backup right now, and it seems like
Right.
Rodriguez is the odd man out, or Brian, if you believe this Brian Robinson stuff. But he seems like sort of the backup to B-Rob, that you're like, okay, he'll take over the B-Rob thing. But like the upside case being just like a touchdown dependent, doesn't catch the ball guy is like, that's hard for me to like fully buy into that. Like he could be very good, but that ceiling case, like the TreVeyon thing is like, we're taking the dude at the 103 next year. Right. And so the Jacorey Croskey-Merritt thing could be very good, but we're like, what's like, I'm struggling to envision the ceiling scenario given where he's at and given the fact that there's zero pass catching upside in his profile. So like, what are we really chasing other than just like, it's fun because we don't like B-Rob? I don't know. I'm sort of selling, though. This isn't like me flag planting B-Rob or whatever, but I'm sort of selling it because of the holes in the profile.
I'm in on Jacorey Croskey-Merritt. And these may be the last days of me being in, because I'm like, it's getting to the point where if you really want him, you got to take him in the 13th round. And
yeah, the rise
is crazy. And when I say crazy, I don't mean like, how could we do this? I think it's probably right that we did this, but it is a huge rise, going completely undrafted in May, to now being like a 13th round pick pretty regularly. His ADP
I think
still
he's probably
going to 170, but
if he does anything in the preseason, he's going to get to like the 120s or something. But
I agree. And at that point, I think I'll sell that. But it's what I like about him is that he can straight up take a job without an injury.
It's true.
That's what I like. That's what I like about him. And it's on an offense that's awesome. This is an offense that could have really efficient downhill running game. Maybe they're being held back by Brian Robinson, who's not a prospect that we were excited about at all, like kind of a plotter type of profile coming in. He has been kind of a plotter, but a very reliable guy, and someone that can kind of churn out yards for them. But in Jacorey Croskey-Merritt, we have someone that could add like some real juice, and that's everything we're hearing out of training camp is he's doing exactly that. The lost year that the NCAA robbed him of because someone else wore the same jersey number, and they said your jersey's played too many times, which is just I know everyone knows this by now, but I can't get over that. It's so stupid.
That is peak NCAA, by the way. That if you want to hear a story of how absolutely absurd the NCAA is, that's near the top of the list, if not at the top.
Yeah. So that season, though, I think it has to widen the range of outcomes on who Jacorey Croskey-Merritt might be. Like, he never got his final year. If anyone comes in as a 7th round pick and is just, wow, this dude is so much better than we would have expected. It's a guy who didn't get to play his senior season. We didn't get that data point. Mike Renner loved him as a prospect and talked him up at the Shrine Bowl, like really tore it up there. So this is that ultimate black box type of player that we just really don't know how good he is. And then we're getting from like a lot of sources, this dude's really good. This guy should be our starting running back week 1. Now, I don't think he will be. I think that was kind of more of a guy. Like, I think what Ben Standig was doing was saying, like, he was flag planting that he thinks Jacorey Croskey-Merritt's already a better option than Brian Robinson.
Right.
Will the team do that? No, the team won't do that. But it's cool that he thinks that, and I think it lends credence to the idea maybe he takes this job over the course of the season. And when you look at some other guys, like, a Braylon Allen, he could really have a strong role over the course of the season. He could like kind of take a job over the course of the season. Is he going to like fully take the early down role though from Breece Hall? I'm like so skeptical that he can just like straight up do it. That he really is like the starter. It's not impossible, but there's, and you kind of go through like Trey Benson. Is Trey Benson without an injury just going to like take James Conner's role? He probably forces a split more. I think Jacorey Croskey-Merritt, because of like how much wider the bands are here, like he actually does have the ability to just like take this role. At least it's easier, that's what I like to think now that he's 14th and 15th. If he goes up into the 12th and I have to pay for that to happen, then maybe not as appealing. But my line, I've kind of had different lines for him. Where like, okay, I'm thinking about this guy. Should I just take Jacorey Croskey-Merritt? And before it was guys like, DJ Giddens or Brashard Smith or something like that.
Right.
Taking one of these flyers, like, no, I'm just going to take Jacorey Croskey-Merritt. And then it was Eckler, actually, because I'm like, if I'm going to do a Washington back, why don't I just take the exciting one?
Agreed.
And now it's Dylan Sampson. Or if I'm like considering Dylan Sampson, I just take Jacorey Croskey-Merritt because obviously with Judkins back, like his path is so much more murky and he's on the Browns. So I'm like, I'm getting the guy, like I'm getting the kind of the early, because Sampson's kind of more of an early down guy as well, even though he's undersized. I'm getting that same kind of like you actually end up taking the early down role by the end of the year. I get that same bet, but at this point, I prefer the JCM side of that. So that's kind of my line. And if it gets much further up than this, though, I probably will be out. But yeah, for now, I think he's still a target. He's still someone I'm trying to get a little bit more of in BBM, where he was going completely undrafted, which obviously matters. I mean, I think that matters in BBM. You show up to the pods and you have JCM, who's had a really good last 4 weeks. Like he's smashed. He's advanced your team, and you're going up against people who don't have him. It's so much more likely for a guy who was going completely undrafted before.
I'm just looking super quickly because I have done 120 BBMs so far, and he is from my opponents. So I haven't taken him very much, just a few times. 44% of my drafts he has been selected in Jacorey Croskey-Merritt in BBM. So let's just call him 50%. 50.
Yeah. So take his advance rate and
cut it in half.
His advance rate and cut it in half. That's the expectation. So he could have a 40% advance rate, which he won't. But then he's only on 20% of the teams that make it to your pot. That's pretty. And then
you wipe out a couple. You wipe out a bunch more along the way, and you get to week 17.
Well,
it's not the same thing, but the year of Kerrane, he was only like 30% drafted in BBM or something like that.
Yep.
And so even though he was like we always say, like, who's this year's Kerrane, right? So he's the league winner of all league winners, and he showed up to the BBM finals. He was like 15% owned, as a last round pick that went absolutely nuclear. And so that's the power of this. So you're definitely swaying me a little more.
I've aggressively targeted him.
I think I'm
only
going
at 14% in BBM. 14.
I think I'm going to hammer him a few times just because I think that everything. What I really like that you said is like kind of the black box element of the whole thing that I probably haven't taken into account enough. I do still think
I would compare him a little to Pacheco in that it's sort of a bet. It's like early down fast guy who, we just don't like. Pacheco is different, but he was such a horrible offense that he came from Rutgers, and it's like even more of a black box because he literally didn't play. But there's like, hey, the dude's profile is like pretty weird, and I would not expect him to be like having this camp that's absolutely like the talk of camp.
Yep.
But that's what Pacheco did, and that's what Jacorey Croskey-Merritt's doing. You could also compare it to Dameon Pierce, who just took over camp, and he had an awesome rookie season. And Pierce ultimately went up into like the 7th round or the 8th round because there was no competition that year. But
how'd that go again?
It went pretty well for year 1.
Oh no, I thought you were talking about year 2, because then year 2, we chased the vol. I don't mean me and you. I mean the royal we chased the Dameon Pierce volume. Back
but I was skeptical of Pierce when he was like in the 15th round of drafts in his rookie year, and I was like, this dude's profile sucks. It's like, yeah, but guys don't normally have this strong of camp, and he had, as a rookie, had 220 carries for 939 yards and 4 touchdowns. Then he went 30 for 165 and 1 through the air. Like, that's a better year than JCM will have because he's not going to be the starter week 1. But
yeah. And so my still like Trep. So I think it's very interesting, and especially like you mentioned, like for BBM and stuff. And I don't have that many. I don't have all that many running backs like after pick like 120-ish that I like if we did the aren't you worried thing, it's like, Jesus Christ, dude, after Harvey's off the board, I'm fucking terrified of all these running backs essentially. So like, who am I to say like, oh, you can't draft this guy, that if they all have their own red flags. I think on underdog, he makes a lot more sense, like specifically about underdog, because like I'm not sure he'll catch a pass. Like
Right.
I mean that's a little bit of hyperbole, but like when is he ever going to come in and like catch 6 balls? Like he caught 7 passes at New Mexico and then didn't play football for a year, so his like pass game chops certainly didn't develop over the course of the last year. They don't throw that much to their backs anyway, as it is in Washington.
Ekeler played about half the snaps last year, and McNichols likely to make the team, and as you mentioned, is kind of his backup. So there's going to be a dude out there for a lot of snaps. It's going to limit how much JCM can play.
And so that's my even if I concede, like all my concerns about him as a prospect, we throw those out because, like you said, just embrace kind of the black box nature, which I do think makes a lot of sense. We're still talking about, like you mentioned, like Braylon, like how much, like what can Braylon really carve out? It's like, so even if JCM steals this role, that is still all he's carving out, is like half of a backfield, and it's the rushing portion of the backfield, which is not nothing this is not me saying that's not valuable, right? Because that's definitely not what I'm saying. But it is like, okay, so the ceiling case, right? Like we said, we just did the TreVeyon thing. It's like the ceiling case for like TreVeyon and RJ Harvey and whoever is just like, they're the fucking man, right? Like, this is my backfield,
for sure.
and I take the whole shit. I am a first round pick next year.
Yeah.
The JCM case is like, I'm trying to think of what is it like.
It's Jordan Mason.
Like what's the Jordan Mason? That's a good. Yeah, that's a good.
You're getting free Jordan Mason. That's the hope.
I like it. Also a great comp to get me to draft more, because I flag planted the fuck out of Jordan Mason last year, and that was very exciting. That was very fun. So I would like to do that again. That would be nice. So I'm in. I like it. I like it. I have some. I'm cautiously dipping my toes in, right? It's like it's
last call, man. Like, if you're going to get in, you got to get in today, because he's going to be a 12th round pick tomorrow. And
when I was in college, we always bought a round of shots at last call. So that sounds like the perfect time to get in on JCM. So we've done TreVeyon. We've definitely done the rookies, which is a lot of times, honestly, what happens here. Let's see. Let me run through some notes super quickly so I can hit any. I just want to.
Should we do Jameson Williams?
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, I don't want to do all rookies, although the rookies are kind of the most fun to talk about. JMO is a good one. You kick us off.
I mean, he's just relentless, dude. I mean, talk about like the most relentless drumbeat of the offseason, and a new offensive coordinator, which I think in Jameson Williams' case is pretty bullish for a couple reasons. One, they could throw a little bit more. Maybe Ben Johnson is super, super committed to the run. And is it John? Yeah, it's Johnny Morton. Maybe he's gonna run the ball plenty, but maybe it's a little bit more normal. Maybe we get 50 extra dropbacks from the Lions compared to last year. Nothing crazy, but they're not like they were at 601 last year, which is fairly low. So you get that, and then you get a guy who's kind of streamlining the offense and making sure that their best outside wide receiver is a big piece of the offense. And yeah, I mean, if you look at like his past production and the fact that Amon-Ra is the clear number one, he just is overpriced, but I'm starting to become a little bit more open to the idea that he's just going to get there.
He seems like the perfect you need to do buy or sell based on the format that you are playing. And in best ball, sign me up for this type of a player, because even if in terms of buy or sell, like Jameson Williams hype as like role growth and all this different kind of stuff, you can be wrong. You should have sold and you bought, and he still hits in ways for best ball that like it doesn't fucking matter. You know what I mean? Like, what are you sacrificing? DJ Moore,
right?
Like yes, you're definitely sacrificing Pickens. He's in a good wide receiver tier, but like he is also a reason why that wide receiver tier is tricky, because he is the best outside wide receiver on one of the best offenses in the NFL, who had, speaking of bizarre, right? If JCM's college career was bizarre, the start to Jameson Williams' pro career was about as bizarre as one can get, with gambling and ACL tears. And he has the, emotional intelligence of a 6-year-old. And like, it wasn't great, right? But they never denied his talent. That you never heard the Lions say anything like he's got to get better at the XYZ. It was always kind of like the emotional and mental side.
The program.
Yes, he's got to figure out how to be a professional.
Yeah,
was the Jameson Williams stuff, which is also concerning for sure. Like, the dude is betting on sports in the building. Like, he needed to get some shit together. But the talent was always undeniable. You guys do the NFL draft show for Ship Chasing. I specifically remember the year JMO got drafted by the Lions. We speaking of last call, we partake in a few cocktails often on opening night of the NFL draft. We definitely did back in those days. Not so much. I can't hang quite to that level anymore like we used to. I think that year was the year we signed off, and I hope Gretch is okay with me telling this, but Gretch had several cocktails as well, and we all just hopped on a different StreamYard or whatever, not live like streaming, but just to shoot the shit about the first round of the NFL draft. And me, Daigle, Gretch, like Jacob, whatever, and Gretch just kept going, Beimfohr, go live on YouTube. Let's go live. And I'm like, Ben, it's 1 a.m. and we've had way too much to drink. You don't want this out there on the internet, I promise you. But we had a lot of fun, and part of the fun was Jameson Williams, and I loved him as a prospect. And I notably drunkenly bought a jersey on that opening night. And I truly have always kind of believed in that talent. And I think the roadblocks have all been removed. And now that cherry on top, dude, of the new offensive coordinator, and obviously the way they're all speaking about him, but more than just the hype, the Morton talking about, we just need to get the ball to our best players, right? We've talked about that a lot as it pertains to Gibbs, and I do think it very much pertains to Gibbs, but he's talking about doing some different, right? Ben Johnson is very much like Kyle Shanahan-y in that he wants to scheme up some stuff that, like, that the passing to the tackles, the trick plays, the end arounds, the double passes with JMO, apparently, which didn't work so well. But he wants to do that stuff. I think we're making a shift to we got dudes. Let's let the dudes do the work. And I think that's really like Amon-Ra
does seem like the shift.
Amon-Ra's like the grinder type guy, and he's awesome. Like, he's a really, really good football player. But JMO's like the give him the ball and watch him cook type of a player. And I think that's the difference that's keeping me on board. That makes it more than just hype. It also is a little bit schematic, I think, in that regard.
I agree. I think you're going to have the offense designed more around Jameson Williams. The thing that's tough about this one is that it's Jared Goff. We know the way he wants to play. We know that this dude cannot handle pressure. You have to get, the way you have success with Goff is that you get the ball out pretty quickly. You run a ton of play action, and you kind of you dial up your deep shots strategically. You don't just have him hang back in the pocket and, try to. He's not this aggressive downfield passer who takes shots and makes people miss. And no, not at all. So it really comes down to what they do with Jameson Williams' route tree to some degree. Is he gonna be more, over the middle kind of crossing stuff that's breaking in where they get him up to full speed, you hit him and you hit him in stride, and then it's yak after that. Whereas not like this downfield, more deep threat guy that you're taking these shots with, or just kind of a gadget type thing, but incorporating him into the offense as the number one target. You look at number one receivers, their ADOTs, they're typically somewhere between 10 and 12. They're not 14 typically. I mean, some dudes can kind of pull that off, like Terry McLaurin can kind of be a number one and a deep threat, but typically you're going to be more in that kind of intermediate range. And is he ready for that? Right. I actually think he's a pretty good managed league main event pick, because if he's ready for that, he's just an absolute smash.
That's true.
You don't have to. There's no like, oh, do I start Jameson Williams this week? The answer is yes. Every single week you start Jameson Williams, because he's like the fastest receiver in the league, and now they're not scheming. They're designing the offense in a way that is just going to consistently get him targets, and targets that are pretty catchable, and targets that are kind of repeatable. If they do that, then he's gonna crush, and whatever price you paid was a good price. I kind of go back and forth, because I'm like, that's a lot to ask for a guy, especially when they already have a dude in Amon-Ra who gets open more underneath, and Goff trusts that, and they have a great connection, and Amon-Ra's in his prime and is awesome and is not slowing down at all. So why wouldn't that kind of continue to drive the offense? But maybe the talent is just undeniable, and you have to, and frankly, if Jameson's ready for that kind of role change, that's a more impactful role. Like if you can get a guy to run, you can hit him over the middle and in stride, and he's now running like 21 miles an hour. That's pretty good. It's better than what Amon-Ra does. So it's like, I think the ceiling's really high, but it's also high in like, it's high. It's just high, like not spike week high, like every week starter high. So I've tried to get, we have a main event share now, and I'm excited about that. Like I think we might have 2 now. But yeah, I mean, on the one, I'm kind of selling from the perspective of, I think we've gotten too excited, but I'm buying that. I think it's still going to happen.
I think that we're too excited, except it's definitely going to happen.
This is, by the way, going to be my truth serum take for Pete's video.
Oh shit, I got to do that today.
Yeah, I got to do it today too.
That is like this whole list where like, I think we're getting out over our skis, except it's definitely going to happen for all of these guys.
That's
like,
my whole, that's kind of
to take. Yeah. So full transparency for anybody that still listens to the Bill Simmons podcast, I stole this idea that we're doing today because I actually thought it was awesome. He had Danny Kelly on, and they did something very similar, buying or selling, just like some hype stuff, because Bill's very boomer. He needs somebody to come on and explain some of these things to him, because he's just like reading The Athletic, and all they're doing is
right.
And all he cares
quarterbacks on his list.
Yeah, exactly. He and all he cares about is the Patriots, and so TreVeyon Henderson, right. He's already put him in the Hall of Fame. And so, but anyway, they did this. But Bill made a very astute point that I was trying to think of, and maybe I've just blocked out the ones that didn't work out in the past. But like when it's this much, when the hype, like when it's Egbuka, when it's TreVeyon, when it's JMO like this, when it is Jacorey Croskey-Merritt, when the hype is like so over, like relentless, right? That word. It's like they won't shut the fuck up, and it's everybody, right? It's not just like the quarterback. It's not just CJ Stroud saying he wants Tank Dell as his slot receiver on his dream team or whatever, right? It's like literally everyone on the team is just like, no, you don't understand. This guy's special. Danny Kelly, obviously not. Maybe this is a parallel to JCM, but he referenced the same thing happened. He's a Seahawks fan. Remember Doug Baldwin when he came into the Seahawks? He was undrafted, and they were like, a couple weeks into camp, everybody was like, oh no, this like. Not only is this dude going to make the team, this dude's like the best receiver on the team already. And it was just like consensus. It was just everybody, right? When, they paid Matt Flynn a bunch of money, the Seahawks back in the day, and they drafted Russ in the third round. And Russ came in, and everybody's like, this ain't Matt Flynn's team. This ain't Matt Flynn's team. This is Russ's team. And so like when you get that, oftentimes it's actually correct. Right. Yeah. It's the hype where it's just like one beat writer is saying this thing, and then like, the other guys are just like whatever.
Or like one story, like the Allen Robinson year where there's like, the story came out like, oh man, I'm really psyched about what the Rams have in store for Allen Robinson. And then that gets like repeated and repeated and repeated. But yeah, when it's like and Jameson's like a ton of different sources, including the OC being like, I am going to throw the ball more to Jameson. And also Dan Campbell, who's like, this dude keeps making strides. And also last year, they were like kind of doing the same thing and then delivered on it, where he had a much bigger role. And we're now getting from the team and from everyone who's seen it, like there's something happening here. Does that something disappoint our lofty expectations ultimately? It still could, because the expectations are pretty lofty.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. There is something happening. That has to be the case, basically.
That's my general take, is like there's something happening here. When there's this much, when it's this much, it's this overwhelming, and it's from this many different sources and this many different stories. It's like it's just I think you are best actually to lean into it and kind of believe that it's like, now that you have to be very cautious about not over applying that concept of diving in, because it can be very easy to just catch any form of hype and dive into any form of hype. But I think there are certain, like kind of the guys we've talked about here today, where it does start to become so overwhelming that usually those kind of situations do tend to work out. Just the last thing on JMO, because kind of speaking of Egbuka and Olave, these fucking Ohio State guys, which of course everybody knows JMO from Alabama because that's where he finished up his career. There's some form of Ohio State shit going on here where, like, I think we might just undervalue all these guys, except for Garrett Wilson. Somehow he just stays very expensive because he always projects for such a high target share, right? So even the spreadsheet bros love Garrett Wilson. But if you just like were involved in, Ohio State just always has the best wide receivers in the country. They're just 5-star after 5-star. So like if you were involved there, we just like underrate you. Because you played with Garrett Wilson, you played with Jackson Smith-Njigba, you play like JMO played behind Wilson, Olave, and JSN, and it was so he was like, do I stay here and wait for 3 years to get on the field, or do I go to Alabama and be an All-American and be the best wide receiver? And he left. He couldn't get on the field because he was behind three guys that were taking JSN in the 3rd round. Now we've been taking Garrett Wilson in the 2nd or the 3rd round. We used to take Chris Olave in the 2nd round. That's who he was.
We would take Chris Olave in the 2nd round if he had a quarterback, I think.
Exactly,
or at least the 3rd.
He's that good. Yeah, he's that good. So like it's like there's Emeka Egbuka sat behind those guys. Sat behind JSN, Olave, Garrett Wilson, and then it's his turn to shine. Oh, guess what, buddy? You're never going to look that good because Marvin Harrison Jr. is over there on the other side. And it's like, spoiler alert, their 3rd wide receiver, Carnell Tate, this year, it's also quite good, five-star player. And then they just welcome in 18-year-old Jeremiah Smith, who could start for every NFL team at 18 years old. It's like all these guys get discounted because there's such an overwhelming amount of talent at Ohio State at the wide receiver position. TreVeyon dealt with it. Judkins and TreVeyon are both there at the same time. They're just like an endless talent at Ohio State. So we're maybe not there's guys at Ohio State. Maybe we just bump them up a little bit in the old prospect models and prospect rankings.
The Ohio State boost. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a whole nother conversation, but I agree. I mean, I think the strength of the program stuff is important, but there are small school guys who break out, and one of them is generating some hype in camp right now, running basically with the ones, not exclusively, but more and more every day. And on the Athletic Pod, a Browns beat reporter,
I already knew who this was the moment you said small school,
said I went back and listened because Zach really just shared the quote, and of course, I gotta go get the full context. But they were talking about how desperate this team is for one of their rookies to hit, and Robert Mays threw that out, and I can't remember who the name of the beat, but he like kind of jumped in. He was like, that's Harold Fannin. It's gonna be Harold. If you're looking for a rookie from this class to hit, the answer is Harold Fannin. He's gonna play receiver for them. He's going to play fullback for them. He's going to be out there. He's going to be the reason that David Njoku moves on from this team in 3 months, or certainly 8 months. So 3 months is the trade deadline, guys. That's what he was talking about. So there's, I don't know. I mean, obviously, I still haven't recovered from hearing that. That's so great to hear. But David Njoku is a free agent after the year, and this is a team that's looking for pieces that are going to be building blocks for them going forward. This is a team in flux. They have a ton of offensive linemen that they're going to need to figure out how to bring back after the year. I would be surprised if Njoku is back. He's an impending unrestricted free agent. He'll be 30 years old. They're almost certainly not going to have their quarterback situation figured out by the end of this year.
Rebuilding. They're
rebuilding.
In such rebuilding mode. Yeah.
So, audition. It's audition season at the end of this year, and so Fannin goes in the third round, which is actually bullish, I think, for kind of where the film community was at on him. He's sort of a polarizing prospect as this, like, what do you do with this guy? Is he really a tight end? And it's like, you throw him the ball. That's what you do. But he goes third round and immediately gets talked up as kind of like the queen on the chessboard. We're going to move this guy around. I've had people say, like, oh, is he Ben Sinnott? Well, Ben Sinnott had like a 19% route participation last year. So the problem's not that he might play out of the backfield some. It's that, you got to worry he's not going to play. But he's had this camp where he's running with the ones like a lot. And they keep talking about him as, someone that they're excited about. And then beat reporters are noting as a player who's really flashing. And so the comparison is more of a Jonnu Smith if you're thinking about him out of the backfield. The comparison is also an Isaiah Likely as kind of a number 2 tight end who plays a bunch. These are the comps I think that actually make sense. And maybe it's Jonnu Smith on the Falcons instead of Jonnu Smith on the Titans, or certainly not the Dolphins. I'm not saying he's going to be last year's Jonnu Smith, but
also not the Patriots
style of play.
Jonnu either.
But not the Patriots either. Yeah, it's more that Falcons year where he's kind of coming in and delivering plays and is a big yak guy, which is very much what Fannin is. He was a huge yak player.
He was second
more yak last year than
the nation.
Burden had yards.
He was second in the nation in yak amongst all wide receivers and tight ends. Like, include wide receivers. He had 750 yards after the catch.
It's wild. It's wild. So, everything has been moving in like such a positive direction for Fannin, but yet people are just having a really hard time getting excited. I was on Ship Chasing last night, couldn't get in tight end premium, couldn't get anyone on board with taking him. We took Jalen Coker instead, who's also pretty exciting at this point. I like Coker, but in a tight end premium league, their ceilings are, I don't think, comparable. Maybe Coker ends up hitting and Fannin doesn't, fine. But I don't know. It's interesting. It's one where it's kind of this steady drumbeat that I'm certainly hearing. But, maybe it's like it's a little too high pitched for the boomer crowd. You lose that note. You can't hear that note anymore. Wake up, boomers. There's a note being played here for Harold Fannin.
The Fannin dog whistle.
The Fannin dog whistle is being it's being blown. So yeah, I don't know. People are sleeping on this, and he's not going to be this absolute week in, week out starter kind of smash. This isn't like a Jake Ferguson level tight end hit from the final rounds, but I think he's going to add points to best ball rosters and is worth taking on underdog now. Like I'm taking him very consistently in the 17th and 18th round. I'm taking him on 2 tight end builds with elites, Bowers Fannin, McBride Fannin, happy to do that. Taking him on 3 tight end builds with, like give me an Ertz and a Henry, and then I'll tack on Fannin, Kincaid, and a Strange. I'll tack on Fannin, something like that. And obviously on DraftKings, he's a smash. He's a perfect way to use one of those final 2 picks.
Well, you don't gotta tell me. I'll just leave it at you. I agree with literally absolutely everything that you said. I'm up to, across all 3 sites in total, across 944 drafts thus far. I'll probably get to, I don't know if I'll get to 1,500, but somewhere between 1,200 and 1,500 drafts by the end of this. I have 19% Harold Fannin across all 3 sites, 26% on DraftKings, 20% on Drafters, 15 on Underdog. So I am very much right there with you. I love, like, what's a way that you can get some of these guys like Jacorey Croskey-Merritt. I'm not going to bring up, but like some honorable mentions to this, like buy or sell, would be like the Keaton Mitchells, which I am buying. Rashad White getting hurt. Sean Tucker's been getting a small, like maybe not a drum beat, but sort of, right? There's a little bit of it. There's somebody tapping on a drum about Sean Tucker.
Sure.
Some of those guys that I like how do I make sure I get them on a draft is like, well, just take an elite tight end and just know you're taking Harold Fannin in the 18th because you can have him on any team that you ever want. And now those 18, now they're not necessarily 18th rounders now, but right. Okay. So take JCM a little bit ahead of ADP. Take Keaton Mitchell a little bit ahead of ADP. Take Sean Tucker a little bit ahead of ADP because you're just going to get Fannin in the last round. Right. And it's like, you can plan ahead. He's like this incredible tool in your draft. So you going in and being like, however this works, right? 3 late tight ends, a middle round, a couple late rounders, an elite with him or whatever. He's this awesome weapon that allows you to get the other stuff.
Yeah.
So he's a great pick to me in a vacuum. And then what he allows you to do in a draft room is so powerful. And we've talked about this too, but like you mentioning who knows, maybe David Njoku's on a different team at the trade deadline. Like no one thinks the Browns are going to be good. Everybody has them as one of the worst teams in the NFL. What happens on teams that are very bad and out of the playoff race down the stretch? Who do you think is playing more at that time? It's not David Njoku, who's not going to be on the Cleveland Browns one way or the other in 2026. It's Harold Fannin. That's audition season, brother. They got to know, it's not just how good is he? They need to know, right? So I'm a St. Louis Cardinals fan. If you can see, there's Cardinals shit right behind and of course, I mean, the Clippers, they sure had to audition all their young guys. You audition when the season's over, get the young kids out there, find it, because you need to know what you need to do in the offseason. Because even though the Browns are rebuilding, I would imagine next year they might think, especially if they can get out from this Deshaun thing with the insurance bullshit that they got going on. Can we get out from under this stuff? And maybe we're not so bad next year. Maybe we get the first overall pick. We get, Arch's grandpa or whatever keeps saying he's not going to come out, but I'll believe that when I see it. But maybe you get Cade Klubnik or Arch or something like that. Now you got a quarterback. Now you got this Fannin. Now you got, maybe they got their backfield figured out. They got Myles Garrett and a defense that's not horrible. They might think that they can win next year. And so you need to audition these guys. It's the whole sometimes the best dynasty guys are awesome best ball bets because then they are peaking at the time when we want the first month. Are you excited to start Harold Fannin in your home league? No. Of course not. But
you're hoping for one random touchdown driven week, but you're not going to predict it. It's best ball.
You can't guess it. Yeah, you draft him in best ball. That's what, just draft him with George Kittle. Pray to God that's the one down Kittle game or something. And you drafted him with Brock Bowers. Bowers didn't score a touchdown that week, but look, Fannin scored a touchdown that week. Cool, awesome. But I don't need Fannin because I have Brock fucking Bowers. He's gonna. Yeah, exactly. I'm counting his score for the first 10 weeks if I have to, and then 100%. Fannin comes on, and now I'm shit. Fannin's running all the routes. Now I got this superstar talent at tight end who, by the way, as you mentioned, second in the entire nation last year in yards after catch amongst wide receivers and tight ends, the highest graded receiver in the country, Harold Fannin on PFF. So, okay, you don't like PFF grades, right? Let's throw the Trey Harris stuff out, right, in terms of yards per route run. You know who is second in the entire country in yards per route run with a minimum amount of targets that I like to filter for? Harold Fannin, right? So even if it
starts with a 4.
Yeah, it's insanity, dude. He was arguably the best receiver in the country. Maybe not even arguably. He was probably the best receiver in the country last year that we get to play at tight end. They're playing him at both tight end and at wide receiver and making sure to get him on the field in a bunch of different ways. And this is the time of year where we wait for that exact information for these fun young players. And he's the one. He seems to be the only one that we're getting this drumbeat on, and no one gives a fuck. No one cares. They won't draft him. No one will draft him. Not even in 20 rounds, dude. He doesn't even go on DraftKings most drafts. It's nonsense. I can't figure it out.
It's 3.77 actually, and it doesn't start with a 4, but it's damn close to a 4.
Goddamn close.
Goddamn close. Yeah, I don't know, man. This is one where it feels like people are almost looking for reasons to not be excited. Maybe it's because he has such a crazy strong statistical profile. And he's got this kind of tweener red flag stuff, and we just got burned by Sanat. The people are just it's not gonna be me. I'm not gonna fall for it.
Saying Ben Sinnott in the same sentence as Harold Fannin, they could not be Like
they really couldn't be more different.
The production profiles, the athleticism, everything is just like these are wildly different. And Benson, it was a nice little college player, and he went in the second round. Great, but like what Harold Fannin did is on a different stratosphere to what Sinnott did.
But I've heard stuff like, Jamari Thrash or Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson's running with the twos and is like on a new team every 3 weeks.
I think he might get cut. Yeah,
he is going to get cut. Let's be honest. One reason that he might get cut is because it sounds like they're going to sign Isaiah Bond. But as Jacob Sanderson asked me last night, like, are you worried about Isaiah Bond? I was like, well, as it turns out, Isaiah Bond just announced himself that he's signing with the Browns and is not signed. So no. Because he's not on the team. When he gets on the team, maybe I'll be like a tiny bit worried, but probably not. Because he went undrafted, was a super kind of boom bust prospect, also like a speed receiver type. I don't think he matters. He's more of like a Cedric Tillman worry than he would be to a Fannin. So, like, I don't know. Can we just like allow ourselves to dream a little bit on one of the best tight end profiles that we've gotten? It's Bowling Green. Maybe it doesn't translate, but it sounds like it's translating. He's doing it at camp right now. He's running with the ones. It's happening. Like, why do we have to ignore that? So he's still available, completely free in leagues. He should be someone that's rocketing up. If you're thinking about taking Elijah Arroyo, take Harold Fannin.
Seriously.
Like, seriously. What are we doing? I saw Arroyo went last night at like he was like in the 14th or 15th round of this main event. And, I couldn't even, like, 16, 17. Can we take Harold Fannin? No, we can't take Harold Fannin. We cannot. He's a backup tight end. Like Arroyo.
So that's
much worse.
Last thing I was
passing prospect and is in a 3-way split.
Yeah. Arroyo is like just a kind of a passing specialist in a timeshare of an offense we're not excited about in Seattle, and he was not a very good prospect.
No, his statistical profile kind of sucks.
He didn't do anything in college. I think what I truly think it is exactly what you just said. Again, the Royal, we categorize these guys like it's a game of Madden very often because it's also just a shortcut. You've talked about shortcuts in the past, right? This guy is wide receiver 1. This guy is wide receiver 2. This guy is tight end 1. This guy is tight end 2. And it's like, well, he's the tight end 2, and teams only play one tight end, right? So how could I ever draft the tight end 2 behind David Njoku? David Njoku's good at football, and you're like, oftentimes that is true. I agree with you, right? Like the Kincaid Knox stuff, whatever that we've tried to do the silly 2 tight end stuff many a time, and it doesn't work out that way. But when they do show us, and when it is a unique prospect like this, and there's like the late season stuff like we're talking about, like everyone thinks the Browns are going to be bad. So what do you think they're going to be doing down the stretch? Like, explain that to me. Like I'm 5. It's like,
again, with the starter being a free agent.
Yeah.
And also, I don't think they trade Njoku, but it's not crazy that they would trade Njoku if they have another tight end who's really flat.
Seahawks might be looking for a tight end at the trade.
Yeah. Oh, that would be so sweet.
Sorry, low hanging fruit. I could. So good. I bet the Seahawks to win the NFC West. So it's stuck in my brain now because I bet it, and then like the Stafford stuff's going on, and like I don't believe in the Cardinals at all. And the 40, I don't think anybody should believe in the Shanahan doesn't believe in the 49ers. He does, like you said, half his team. He's like, yeah, I'll worry about them in weeks. So, maybe Seattle will pick up David Njoku to take him over the.
Maybe the Dolphins
to finish line.
Waller still not out there. They could use a tight end.
I thought he was supposed to be coming back to practice. Remember the very quick, insane rise of Darren Waller on Underdog. Holy shit, that was a wild little moment.
Me, Davis, and Jacob chanted to Pete CLV as we took Darren Waller in like the 18th round of a slow main. No CLV so far.
Yeah, you had CLV for like a hot minute, like the quickest minute ever, and then it was just ripe. Even the absolute boomer of the boomer who loved the Darren Waller types were finally like, yeah. I think the guy who's like finishing last in these like fake strongman competitions against a bunch of like retired firemen or whatever is probably not going to set the fantasy world on fire. Shit.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, still
Like,
not back
we
in
got out of
practice.
our skis there for a minute.
Yeah, not sure that Darren Waller exists anymore, actually. I want to rapid fire a couple, just so we can like give a little quick buy or sell, because we both kind of have a hard out here in a few. I mentioned the Drake London stuff.
Oh yeah.
Buy or sell kind of Drake London taking a leap. I'm not saying he's going to have a 40% target share like the one beat writer seems to keep reporting, but a Drake London leap with Michael Penix at quarterback, buy or sell?
I'll sell the hype, because what I think the hype is being driven by, like, oh man, Drake London is gonna have this huge target share. Like that's so sick. I'm really glad that they've realized they need to throw the ball to Drake London a bunch. It's like they knew that. He had a 25% first read target rate last year, which I believe led the league. The entire offense, you don't really get, that's like AJ Brown 2 years ago was at that level. You don't really get higher than that. So he's kind of maxed in terms of what the offensive design is not going to be more about Drake London last year. Like Puka last year was at 24% first read target rate. It's an awesome thing. I'm not saying it's bad. It's great. But the idea that like London will, he led the league in first read target rate last year. That you don't really, there's no room to increase. He runs all the routes. He gets targeted at a really high rate, in part because the offense is designed to go through him. That is not new information in any way. And also Darnell Mooney's not out there. So who else are they going to throw to? They're trying to hype Kyle Pitts, not falling for it.
That lasted about as long as the Waller hype did, by the way.
Yeah.
They went golfing one time and we heard about it, and we haven't heard shit since.
Right. And now it's 42% of the targets to look, I have 3% Pitts. I'm not, it's not, I won't ever not.
I'm about the same.
Yeah. You can mix him in, but like, it's just, we're not learning anything with that. Of course they're throwing to London all the time. That's what they do. But they're talking about wanting to like run the ball and like that being a big part of what they do. He will break out if Michael Penix breaks out. He will break out if Michael Penix has a ton of passing volume. That's how he breaks out. Target share stuff for London, completely selling. We're gonna get a high target share for him, but we already know that. It's why he goes where he does.
Totally agree. Nailed it. Selling the hype, buying that there is a ceiling this year because of, but
of course,
it's entirely tied
to
the
hype.
If Michael Penix is right, last year we drafted Drake London just a little bit higher than this, close enough, but more like 12th overall, 12th or 13th. Right, he was at the 1-2, the old Drake London Marvin Harrison double tap at the that will go down in infamy of 2024. He went there because we knew what you just said, which we still know, what his target share is going to be, how big of a part of the offense he's going to be, and that he's a good football player. But he went from Desmond Ridder and Marcus Mariota to Kirk Cousins. And we thought, okay, this is it, right? Kirk Cousins is going to unlock finally this good player. Well, it turns out Kirk Cousins wasn't any better really than Desmond Ridder and co. So now it's the same thesis, right? So it's tied to Michael Penix. It's not tied to this hype machine that is going on with Drake London. Though I like Drake London, it's because of Michael Penix and what ceiling he can provide.
Exactly. Yeah. And we're actually not hearing like that much hype out of camp about Michael Penix. I mean, it's not that he's been bad, but like
he's been up and down.
Yeah, that's what I would be like really excited about. So yeah, I think
I do like them from a stacking perspective in best ball, just because I know exactly what to do. Sometimes that's awfully nice to just be like, I know when I want the Falcons, I know exactly who to go get. Penix is cheap, which really helps. Like we're talking about Fannin as a last to like, if you have London or something, you're like, okay, well, I got Penix in my back pocket at pick 140. It's nice to know that at quarterback. So, if the window doesn't go your way, or same thing, you want to draft an elite, you want to take Jalen Hurts or something like that, like having Penix in your back pocket is pretty nice.
Yeah, I'm looking for any wide receiver. It looks like DeAndre Hopkins back in 2017 when he just got absolutely fed by the Texans, got up to 28%.
Yeah, Houston
target rate.
Watson and stuff.
Houston, and then and then Tyreek Hill in his first year with the Dolphins was at 26%. Those are the only guys I have above 25% first week target rate going back to 2017 at wide receiver, who played like more than 4 games. So it's just we already know. I don't want to double count. I don't want to double count that Drake London is as locked in a number 1 as there is in the league. Like, yeah, no shit.
Right. All right. Buy or sell. We've talked about this guy a few different times, but it is one of my favorites. The just gushing reviews from members of the Raiders organization and most recently their general manager about Dante Thornton. Buy or sell this that they sure love Dante Thornton. Intriguing prospect, but is this hype for real? Does it reach the levels of some of these other guys we talked about, or how are you judging him?
Buy for me. I think, with Thornton, not really that great of a prospect at all. The type of guy that I think heading into, best ball in May, firmly undraftable, not someone we should expect an immediate impact from. But, you generally do expect impact from starters. And he's been a starter basically since OTAs. Like, I was probably a little bit slow to get on board, to get up to speed with like how locked in he was as a starter. But you want to talk about yards per route run. He had 3.72 yards per route run last year, only on 178 routes. But he was at 2.80 for his career on 509 routes, 4-year career, 2 years at Oregon, 2 years at Tennessee. Never played a ton, but this big dude, 6'5", 214, immediately comes in big and fast. Yeah, comes in as their starting X receiver. And they're talking about doing stuff where they have Thornton and Trey Tucker and then Mayer and Bowers, and like the kind of the problems that creates. You could also obviously have 11 personnel, but it's Jakobi Meyers, and he's like earning targets in the same way kind of that Mayer would, out of the slot underneath.
That's hilarious, by the way.
It's kind of the same, right?
Jakobi Meyers and Michael Mayer are replaceable, and one guy gets pick 70.
Yeah, it is silly. I haven't been as high on Myers since I've heard that stuff. Where they're like, yeah, this set really like unlocks some intermediate targets to Michael Mayer instead of Jakobi. But I think if you're designing an offense that's going to be based around Brock Bowers, getting a guy like Thornton out there on the field makes a lot of sense. And he's just been the starting X like all summer. Again, like really to the spring, you can see it there. And this is the same thing we got with Puka, man. I'm not saying he's me Puka, but it's the same thing. Like it's like, hey, remember this guy, this dude you really didn't think was anything, day 3 guy. Well, the team likes him a lot, and he's going to start from day 1. And we're normally going to get what we normally get is Michael Wilson, because that's what happened with Wilson, right? And I think he was a 3rd-round pick, but not a guy we liked. That's what I expect, is that he's going to be kind of early career Michael Wilson, but there is more upside than that. And so if I'm taking him in the 160s and I'm like, yeah, most of the time I'm just getting kind of, it's the De'Ami Brown outcome,
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same. It's like the range is exactly the same as De'Ami Brown's, except like just at the very over all the way.
It's very De'Ami Brownie. Yes.
Yeah.
It really is.
All the way to the right. The range is way better. So, that tail just extends that little extra bit. I'm into that. Little extra part of the tail. I think he's probably nothing other than, a totally fine 18th round pick. Probably a good 18th round pick, I should say, because he's a starting wide receiver with speed, who's going to earn deep targets, from time to time at the very least. But yeah, like it's like I'm getting Alec Pierce, but also a much better, offensive setup or quarterback setup. Mm-hmm. And I don't actually know that he isn't more than Alec Pierce. So yeah, he's risen, and it's a little uncomfortable. Sometimes it was uncomfortable for me to take him where he goes at first, but now I'm pretty comfortable, man. I'm happy to get him. Wandale is someone I take in that same range, and it's more about like, do I have a Chris Godwin? Do I have a Rice?
Right.
How many receivers do I have? But if I'm talking about like a wide receiver 6 on a room that I already like, give me Thornton. I think he's we're not paying for the upside is not all that likely to hit, but you don't have to pay for it. And he's a receiver who got taken 108. So, early day 3 guy, did flash efficiency, is really fast, is really big, gets a starting role out of the gate on a team that took a receiver in the 2nd round. I think Jack Bech is a great 18th round pick, but I think he'll have a role by the end of the season because Trey Tucker's not very good. But they clearly, they're like, whoa, this dude is more than we thought he was, and he's going to start for us right out of the gate on an offense that I'm generally pretty into. I like investing in the Raiders. So yeah, I'm buying, and I will do the thing, backdoor stacking. I'll take Geno, try to grab Thornton, reach a little bit for Geno, try to grab Thornton, and then get Bech. But a lot of times I get sniped on Thornton. Part of me is like, maybe I should be reaching for Thornton and then try to get Geno.
Right. Just Geno, if people don't have Bowers, and even like Myers drafters don't necessarily love Geno. And we talked last week about I think Geno's an awesome pick, and I am excited about the Raiders. So having both it's kind of like this interesting like stable / upside swing available to backstack. Like normally you're backstacking and you're like, ugh, am I doing this just like to make myself feel better because I have a correlated pick, or is he actually a good pick? In this case, they're both like awesome picks, I think. So it works out. Yeah, it works out super well. I want to put one more guy in our little like kind of rapid fire honorable mention. You mentioned I know we toss around the word the term Puka and the name Puka too much, but if I
definitely not gonna be Puka, but
yes,
it's nice to see guys who earn starting roles that early. That's bullish.
Exactly. My guy in that regard, who is also getting an absolute shit ton of hype. In fact, the defensive players on his team. So not this isn't a beat writer coming up with something. This isn't just like wild speculation. It is, of course, not, the end all be all. But the guys trying to cover him in practice called him Jerry Rice Jr. And that is Tory Horton. The Seattle Seahawks defenders called him Jerry Rice Jr. And he has been getting a very steady drumbeat of a lot of positive news in camp. Also, keeps getting run with the ones, did in their preseason scrimmage, and then obviously played well in their first preseason game. Pops as a prospect to me in similar ways. Again, there is no such thing as another Puka, but in similar ways of Puka being at kind of a little bit of a smaller school. He went to Colorado State and was really like every year that he played was really good, but there was some injuries. He was dealt with, he's at Colorado State with some pretty shit quarterback play, which also Puka dealt with, but it was like when he played, he was really good. And specifically last year, now he only got to play 5 games last year. And so, 5-game sample size, like efficiency stuff can be a little bit wonky, but 3.45 yards per route run last year. In those 5 games, he went on 38 targets. He went 25 for 331 at Colorado State, and he's athletic. The size is fine. And all reports so far are he's like kind of dusting off MVS. Yeah. And so if he dusts MVS, and it obviously JSN is going to be the man in the offense, but we just talked about like Elijah Arroyo and this tight end committee is uninspiring. I'm not really a believer in Cooper Kupp. Like it's technically possible Cooper Kupp is still good. I don't know that I would put my chips on that. So we're like, all of a sudden, like there's a lot of opportunity available for this rookie who is popping. And was he a little bit underdrafted because of not the same thing as we talked about with JCM, but just like the final year sample wasn't quite, we didn't get the full thing like we thought we were going to get. He could have went on and went scorched earth last season for all we know, but we just didn't get the full picture. Obviously he could have been worse too down the stretch, but there's a certain level of mystery, and then the run out has been awesome for him, and all the hype has been really good. So I'm buying the Tory Horton hype.
Yeah, because I believe he had a knee injury, which shortened his college career and created a little bit more uncertainty in the scouting process about what he would be. So I agree with the JCM thing of like, this dude might be more than you would expect for the draft capital. Maybe I'm a little bit biased here because I had a ton of Tory Horton in the big board. I thought he was just a really, really fun pick. I know Matt Harmon ended up being really high on him as a route runner. And I thought the statistical profile was pretty intriguing. I had 24% of him in the big board. He was a pretty big stand, and goes day 3 to this kind of unexciting situation, and looks like he's not really making that much of a noise early on. But the drumbeat has been pretty loud for a while now, last couple weeks anyway. And I agree. I think he's going to start over MVS right away, or at least be in a rotation with MVS and then kind of grab that role. And he's kind of your discount Deontay Thornton. I think you get that same kind of black box element. I think he'll have some production pretty early on. I think he's a guy you can take in the main event, even as like a take a peek guy, and you'll kind of get a sense of what his role is pretty early. I think, and if you get locked out of that, the Geno back stack, I've gone right to the Darnold one. And this is like on a Josh Allen team, Lamar team, Hurts team. I'm like, I need a quarterback too. I've really pushed it, and the Geno stuff isn't going to have someone snipes Geno.
Yep. I'll
go Darnold Horton as a nice little fun back stack there. You can also go Coker and do a little bring back. That's a fun little three player combo to kind of close out your draft. So I'm very in on Horton. Someone I'm trying to get more of in my BBMs, because he was not really drafted. I don't think he'll have the same kind of like, oh my God, impact that a running back can.
Correct.
But still, you get a spike week from him in week 15 or 16, and you're the only guy in the pod with him. That sounds fun. And he could be a starter all season. So it's not like you're not just like hoping for some random variance one week. Like, he could be an important part of their offense all year. And who knows what Kupp has left. Kupp could be completely dust by the end of the year. Could be kind of him in a 2-man, clear cut second target to JSN down the stretch if Kupp kind of continues his decline, which, given that the Rams had no interest in bringing him back, maybe he does.
They brought in another clearly aging and declining player to replace the other aging and declining player who had been with them for many a year. Like, no one knew Cooper Kupp better than the Rams, right. And Sean McVay was like, "Give me Devontae, please, God, give me Devontae."
Not a great sign.
Totally agree. I got to run. We both got to run, but you obviously have your breakout series, which has been phenomenal. Anything else to plug before we get out of here?
Still rolling those articles out. Had another one today. I'm gonna have, I think I've got like 5 more of those that are gonna be rolling out. They've been a lot of fun. Legendary running back article will be out at the end of next week, and that'll be free. So please check that out. It's the flagship article for the site. I travel to the future and see with my own eyes which running backs have legendary seasons that win us leagues, change the narrative around an entire season. So that'll be fun to dive into. Looking forward to getting that out to the people. If you want to check out the Sidekick, that's at legendaryupside.com/sidekick. They just launched a big eliminator over on Underdog. That's a fun tournament I might jump into. A small field eliminator, right? That's something that I think the side could be helpful for as well. So if you do sign up for the Sidekick, we have $20 DraftKings bonus tickets available for their flagship contest. Check that out at legendaryupside.com/perks. And a lot of content rolling out on the site.
And of course, if you are a Legendary Upside subscriber, you can come over to Spike Week and get 40% off. I think I mentioned the last couple of weeks that we reduced our annual price down to just $200. So it's $40 a month. Obviously, we understand that some people don't do stuff year round with best ball, and maybe you're not into DFS and sports betting, which we're going to be covering this year. So your annual subscription, 365 days, right? Some people have asked, which I didn't really realize was a thing, but some people have asked, like, is it just, annual
ours is
for
too,
NFL?
by the way.
Yeah. It's like annual means 365 days. I understand, some other people are trying to con you out of your money, but I promise we're giving you 365 days worth of coverage. And we're going to be doing a lot more DFS, in-season betting, battle royale stuff. So get 40% off if you are a Legendary Upside subscriber. But that'll do it for Pat and myself. Everybody enjoy the rest of your weekend if you're listening to this on Saturday or Sunday. And we will catch you guys next week, a couple weeks away, and we'll finally be ready for some real football. But plenty of drafts left to do, and hopefully these guys that we talked about here today can help you make some decisions on all the guys that you keep hearing endless amounts of hype on. But we'll catch you next week. Cheers.